Certain characters can have jokes or memes attached to them that just endure. When it comes to Superman, one that he comes by quite honestly is his penchant for LL named love interest. Fans are often more than willing to extend that to other people in his life, and so are DC Comics themselves. They do that too, including the likes of Lightning Lad, but more significantly for our purposes, Lex Luthor. The comics have not been shy about pointing out that there are many significant LLs in Superman's life. However, inevitably when this comes up, particularly as it pertains to Lex, you may have someone say, but isn't Lex's name Alexander? Now, for most people who engage in this lighthearted LL ribbing, they will acknowledge that Lex's name is Alexander and it's all in good fun. However, Lex's name was not always Alexander, and the journey towards it is a bit more of an interesting story than people may realize. And during the Silver and Bronze Age, for a time, Lex's name was just Lex. It was not an abbreviation. In fact, that comes in later. And Alex isn't the first A name they give him. Lex's naming history is even more fascinating because for over a decade, he didn't even have a first name. This is the kind of rabbit hole stuff I adore, so we're gonna go over the history of the naming of Lex Luthor. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and fun fact, Sasha can be short for Alexandra. It's not for me, but if it was, I'd go by Lexa. Luthor debuted in the Golden Age in Action Comics 23 in the year 1940, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Debuting in the story Europe at War Part 2, and as one can see, he has a full head of red hair. This will change when he's depicted as bald in a newspaper strip and in Superman number 10 from 1941. Now, some think that there was conflation between Luthor and the Ultra-Humanite, who was Superman's first big recurring enemy. But Ultra was phased out before Luthor was introduced. The bald Luthor appears to have arisen, or so the story goes, because Leo Novak mistook one of Luthor's henchmen for Luthor. And as sometimes the comics would have ghost artists and the like, it's not uncommon that some errors would end up replicated in that fashion. Whatever the reason, however it happened, it ended up sticking. However, this change would become a huge part of comic lore, particularly later on in the Silver Age, as an early example of later eras trying to explain some kind of physical appearance shift in a way that can pertain to the canon. Think about explaining different types of Klingons. But one thing to know about Luthor in the Golden Age is that he had no first name. He's just called Luthor. And that does persist even later on, even after he is named. It's not uncommon for people to just call him by his last name anyway. There's a letter from Action Comics 262 from 1960 asking what Luthor's name is. Dear editor, how did Luthor get his name and what is his origin? Luthor's full name is Lex Luthor. Oddly enough, his initials are LL, like those of Lois Lane, Lana Lang, Linda Lee, and Lori Lamaris. As a teenager, young Luthor was once a good friend of Superboy's. For the complete story of his origin, see the April issue of Adventure Comics. So the Silver Age not only gives Lex a name, but it alters his backstory. His and Superman's relationship gets retconned to them having met in Smallville as children when Superman was Superboy. This change partially comes about because of the Silver Age itself. Some characters are being changed, beginning with the Flash in 1956. No more Jay Garrick, enter Barry Allen. Green Lantern will become Hal Jordan. Changes are being made to fit with the different tropes and changing times. So when we go forward and eventually get separate Earths, the Golden Age Lex and the Silver Age Lex will be different. They're going to play with the differences in their origins. And so we get a new kind of start and introduction to the Superman-Luthor rivalry, introduced in Adventure Comics 271 in 1960. Some call that his Silver Age introduction. As mentioned, it's easy to assign certain stories to that Earth, and then some of the very specific ones that emerged at the start of the Silver Age to Earth 2, whereas some of the ones that come before can be assigned to Earth 1. This can be done as a way to reconcile differences or frictions between canons, such as Superman and Lex meeting as children versus as adults. Now, as for issue 271, we have the story How Luthor Met Superboy. It's written by Jerry Siegel with art by Al Plastino. And it's in the story that not only do we get to see the moment where Lex loses his hair, this is an experiment gone wrong that will come back to over and over again through the 70s, beyond. It's not something they let go. They will reference it partially as a ruined experiment, but they will also land heavy on the "you made me lose my hair" too. But for the purposes of our video, more important than his hair loss is that this is the introduction of him having a first name. And they build it up, they don't say it right away. Superboy, the adventures of Superman when he was a boy. Everyone knows that Superman's arch foe is Luthor, but what brought on the enmity between the two? Did you know there once was a time when Luthor and Superboy were good friends? That Luthor even saved Superboy's life? What then was the original reason for Luthor's insane hatred of the Man of Steel? You'll find out when you read How Luthor Met Superboy. I think the most egregious thing here is that his hair is brown. He's ginger again later, it'll be fine. For now, we can just accept that it's separate Earths. We learn Luthor's name after he saves Superboy's life. We're kind of doing an inverse Smallville. Smallville owes a lot of its characterization to the Silver Age. He saves his life by getting a giant piece of kryptonite away from him, this with a tractor. Safely beyond reach of the meteor's ball full of radiations, Superboy swiftly recovers. I owe my life to you. What's your name? Lex Luthor. Meeting you, Superboy, is about the most thrilling thing that ever happened to me. Do you like surprises? Follow me. I wonder what he's going to show me. Inside Luthor's barn. Great Scott, trophies everywhere. I have hero worshipped you for years. To me, you're the greatest boy in the world. Oh, he's got a fist bump rock. He'll be singing a different tune by the end of this story. Also, Superboy is way too trusting. Hey, see that dark barn over there? Let's go. The shrine room wouldn't be weird for him. He has some of those. Lex is actually trying to create an antidote for kryptonite. He accidentally knocks over some of the chemicals that get set on fire. It's when Superboy is trying to blow this fire out that the bottles collide. It causes a reaction. Acid bottles collide with the antidote, and this is what causes Lex's baldness. As the flames vanish, Superboy enters the damaged alcove expecting Luthor's thanks, but you rat. Your puff of super breath blew an acid bottle against the antidote bottle. They broke, and their contents destroyed the formula for my great discovery. Not only that, the gas fumes made my hair fall out. I'm bald. So he rates them both equally, the loss of the experiment and his hair. They're kind of intertwined. He's just overall bothered and named. There's more complexity in this origin than people give it credit for. Maybe it needs its own selective deep dive. And as one can see, just Lex, not Alex. And we've already had it confirmed by that letter that goes all in by linking him with the other LLs. So this era, whenever you see the two LLs, is genuine. We're not in a time when Lex has to abbreviate his name to join the club. He's just part of it. So when does this change? Well, it seems not to be for a long time. The earliest issue that gives Lex a different first name, revealing Lex to be a nickname, is Action Comics 512 in 1980, an issue I posted the cover of in the community tab because it's a great image of Superman making out with Lex's bride-to-be, Angela. It came up because in that issue, there's one panel featuring Lex's wife, Ardora. Even though he's marrying Angela in this, Lex, you bigamist. The story is actually very deep and sad. Just the tale of Angela Blake is tragic. It takes place in Luthor's Day of Reckoning by Carrie Bates, with pencils by Kurt Swan, inks Frank Chiaramonte, colors Gene D'Angelo. This story opens with Lex getting a presidential pardon, seemingly having turned over a new leaf. As for Lex's name, we get to hear the whole thing during the wedding ceremony where he's marrying Angela. And of course, Superman's the best man. Always the groomsman, never the groom until post-crisis. At the groom's request, the ceremony is being conducted in total privacy, with only the Man of Steel on hand along with Lois Lane as bridesmaid. And do you, Alexis Luthor, take Angela Blake to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and to cherish in sickness and in health, until death do you part, at the end of this issue? I do. So as you heard, the first name given to him isn't Alexander or Alex, it's Alexis. Why have we moved away from that? I love it. Bring back Alexis Luthor for main Lex. I know it's been used for other versions, but people still just call him Lex or Luthor most of the time. New headcanon unlocked. Lex just hates his first name. You see the Alexis name reinforced in Superman 416, The Einstein Connection by Elliot S. Magan, with art by Kurt Swan, inks Al Williamson, colors Gene D'Angelo. This is when Lex is fantasizing about getting a pardon for solving all the world's ills. Maybe asking, didn't he have a pardon? It didn't work out, okay? He went bad. So, for the device that has solved the world's energy and food distribution problems, the United Nations hereby grants to Alexis Luthor a full pardon and worldwide citizenship. But you may be thinking that you've heard another name associated with past Lex, and that's Alexi. While that name is associated with Luthor, that one's given to the Earth 2 version, which you see in DC Comics Presents Annual Number 1 from 1982 in the story Crisis on 3 Earths, written by Marv Wolfman, pencils by Rich Buckler, inks Dave Hunt, colors Carl Gafford, which stars both Superman and Golden Age Superman. Also, we are going to talk about that because it's a crisis. And here you see Golden Age Lex, still has red hair, and he refers to himself as Alexi. This is a really fun story, especially if you're aware of some of the little minute details and differences between the two Earths, such as Daily Star versus Daily Planet. It's a lot of fun. The story sees the Luthors team up, so you get to see their names reinforced, or at the very least the Alexi for the Golden Age Luthor. It's then in write-ups and the like retroactively applied. There is a third Lex in this story because we do involve Earth 3. And it's this version of Lex who gets the name Alex, which then kind of starts to associate Alexander with positivity, but only for a time. This is a good version of Lex, for on Earth 3, things are reversed in the good and evil department. Also, he has a beard. He's subverting expectations. Normally getting a beard means you're evil. Also, his superhero costume is terrible. I don't care what Lois says. Feel free to disagree with me. I'm sure some of you may love it. So when does main Earth Lex become named Alex? That happens post-Crisis. That's Crisis on Infinite Earths, which concludes in 1986, and for the time eliminates the multiverse. And a lot of things are changed when the status quo is reintroduced for Superman, and that includes how Lex is depicted. Gone is the mad scientist for a time, enter the businessman. Over time, these two elements will refuse. Personally, I'm glad of it. I think it makes him more fun to have both aspects. But in this new era, he's given the full name of Alexander Joseph Luthor. The first time I could find that in full was Superman Lex 2000. I've seen it attributed to the Man of Steel miniseries by John Byrne, but when I reread that, I only saw him called Lex. Please, if I missed it, let me know, but I didn't see it there. there. And also, if there is an earlier version before the year 2000 that calls him Alexander, let me know. I want to be informed if I missed an Alexander. But the point remains that he gets that name post-crisis. Again, most people just call him Lex or Luthor. It also wouldn't surprise me if there's some kind of Mandela effect around it because he has all those other names floating around. So what that means for the whole Lex is an LL joke is that since the Bronze Age, he's been abbreviating his name. Now he's choosing the LL life. What's funny is that by giving him the middle name Joseph, he eventually ends up with the same middle name as Clark. Clark's had that one float in and out of existence as a tribute to one of its creators, but it was fully shown on panel as Joseph in 2023, at the start of the Dawn of DC era under Joshua Williamson. So yeah, currently time of recording, they share a middle name. Do you think Lex loves or hates that? So there is some random Lex knowledge, from Luthor to Lex to Alexis to Alex. You can throw Alexi in the middle there if you want to count his Earth 1 naming too. This kind of thing I just find fun and interesting, and yes, it's probably a video that could have been an email or a community post, but I think it's more fun to chart the actual issues and read some of the panels from them and get the vibe of what was going on. It gives it more flair than just stating that at one point he was named Alexis. You got to see the journey. What are some random comic facts that you enjoy? Also, should we bring back Alexis for Lex or reference it more? Outside of Grant Morrison references? You're always gonna get obscure references there. Your thoughts, please share them while you're down there. Please all YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking Saturday night spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Say his name, when no one is around. He says, why don't you love me? My name is LL.